Ay, 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 ay,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to each of you this Shabbat morning. I have been looking forward to this morning, our first Shabbat morning service together. And I have been so looking forward not only to sharing it with Cantor, but with all of you, to have the chance to enjoy this time together, to sing, to study, and to simply be present together on this beautiful morning. Beautiful because here we are together. So we will continue together in our prayer books. We use these nice thick prayer books on Shabbat morning. In the seats in front of you, we're going to continue on page 196. Page 196. Elohai Neshama, God, the soul you have given me is pure, capturing that sense we get as we wake up to a new day, that it is fresh and full of possibility.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenai Tatabi, Shenai Tatabi. Tehorahi, Tehorahi, Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי. מודה אני, מודה אני, מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי ואמותיי, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות, אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה, נשמה, שנתת בי, שנתת בי, טהורה היא, טהורה היא, אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה, נשמה, שנתת בי, שנתת בי, טהורה היא, טהורה. ברוך אתה אדוני אשר בידו נופש כל החי, ורוח כל בשר איש. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לשכל ובינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivri.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רוקה הארץ על המים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei kaver.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש שרומים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten liya'ev koach.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המעביר שינה מעיניי ותנומה מעפעפיי.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzelem Elohim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בן חורים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזר ישראל בגבורה.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen. Together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
On the handouts that you received, at the bottom of that first page, I want to point you to a text. We just sang the blessing for Torah study, so now we have to study the tiniest bit. And I wanted to share with you a text that I'm going to be studying later with our madrichim, our religious school aides, the teenagers who help the teachers in our religious school classrooms. And it's a favorite text of mine from Pirkei Avot. Yehoshua ben Parachia used to say, "Make for yourself a teacher, acquire for yourself a friend, and judge each person on the scale of merit." And I'll translate that just a little bit differently as well, because any translation is an interpretation. So I'll share with you a little bit of color on it. So aseh lecha rav, make for yourself a rav, a rabbi, a teacher. right? What might it mean to make for yourself, right? To find that for yourself, a rabbi or a teacher. Ukne lecha chaver, acquire for yourself a companion or a friend. V'dan et kol ha'adam lechaf zechut. I would translate that and judge each person. It's on the scale of merit, but if you picture the scale, right? And are their intentions good? Are their intentions bad? We're tipping toward merit, right? We're weighing that more heavily. What are their most meritorious qualities? And attempting to focus on these. And this is one of those phrases in Pirkei Avot, that tractate of the Mishnah, this wisdom literature that I come back to and back to and back to, that I think encapsulates so much of what Judaism asks of us. Find someone to learn from, right? Be in connection with other people, support others, be in connection with other people, and do our best to tell our most compassionate version of the story of any of our interactions, right? Tip the scales to focus on the good in other people as much as possible. So I try to incorporate this into my life. I'm going to try to incorporate this into my Shabbat, and I invite you to as well.
We're going to continue on page 222. Daven the page, and then go to our handout for Shochenan. 222, and then begin singing on the handout. Ha'el beta'tzumot uzecha, hagadol bichvod shemecha, hagibor lanetzach, vehanora benorotecha, המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא, שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נאווה תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמחלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור. בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב הקדושים תתקדש, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב הקדושים תתקדש, שוכנן מרום
Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. Daily miracles. You bring my son's footfalls to my door and shock me awake with his cold heels against my ribs. You teach me to distinguish waking life from dreaming. You press the wooden floor against the soles of my feet. You slip my eyeglasses into my questing hand, and the world comes into focus again. In the time before time, you collected hydrogen and oxygen into molecules which stream now from my shower head. You enfold me in this bath towel. You enliven me with coffee. Every morning you remake me in your image and free me to push back against my fears. You are the balance that holds up my spine, the light in my gritty, grateful eyes. On page 224, we rise together for Chetzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah B'almadi v'rachirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael B'agala u'vizman karif v'meru Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'la'alamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha, brichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. 228, continue on your own. Or Chadash Al Tzion Tahir V'nizkechu Lanu Meira Leoro Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. V'ha'erinenu v'toratecha v'dahabek lebeinu v'mitzvotecha v'yachel le'aveinu le'ahava u'yirat shemecha v'lo Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiut le'artzeinu ki el poel Yeshuot ata uvanu b'charta v'keravtanu l'shimecha hagadol asela be'emet lehodot lecha u'leyachetcha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
$234.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ug'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Turn the page. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem, ve'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, ve'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet. V'haya lachem letzitzit uritem oto uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam v'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem asher atem zonim achareihem Lema antizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem emet.
241. The good in us will win. Over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done, we will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing. And the good that is in us, children in their cradles will have won. Our hearts beat with certainty that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end. And the nations will hear it, and like the caravans in the desert, will all to that morning throng. On the right-hand side of the page.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar v'kodesh, norati lo tosef eleh, shira chadasha shibchu yehulim, לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם האורים ליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדי חינומך, יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 244. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaya, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'nemanata Lachayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei HaKol. Page 248. Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, Kishem shemakdishim אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, ולא כל הארץ Page 258, continue with prayer for peace. This is the first Shabbat AM service we've had since our congregational trip to Israel. And of course, there is news of rockets in the Middle East. And of course, there is news, mud being slung from one side to the other in the media as well. And you gotta just ask, when does this lead to wholeness? How does this lead to the absence of chaos? We see that in the media, and we just had a primary election. And sometimes I just like to quiet it all and think about my world and my needs of wholeness and peace. What can I do to be an agent for stillness in the world? What can I do to invite even my energetic 9 and 8-year-olds to slow down, even for a little bit, and find that sense of mindfulness and comfort and peace? I think we all can get there, and it's very healthy. But it takes time, and it takes planning, and it takes shutting down everything in your world that you say, well, I could just go play Wordle, That is always little fun distractions. But it's also important to turn it all off and find stillness and find peace. So I would invite us to turn to page 258, pray for peace not only in various places in the world, but also to ponder what can I do to find that stillness this Shabbat and find some wholeness. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Barchenu yotzreinu kulanu ke'echad ve'or panecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Ki ve'or panecha natata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim.
We are going to continue now in our service with our Torah service, Seder Kriyat HaTorah, in our prayer books that begins on page 366. Page 366, and we rise together.
Friends, would you please join us on the ark? I think we're in an intimate group, and we can all find our space as we're comfortable.
On the bima?
On the bima? What did I say?
On the ark, which would be physically more difficult.
Well, it would take some climbing, but I think we can get everyone up there. Please join us. We're gonna, Addison, would you open the ark, please? This one right here. Yeah.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Just turn around. Gadol Adonai iti, Romima Shemo Yachtav. Yai nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai nai I nai I nai nai. I nai 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 I nai nai. I nai 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 I nai I nai nai. I nai 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 I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 nai. I nai 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 I nai I nai nai. I nai 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 I nai 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 nai. Well, we stand here at Parshat Va'et-Chanan, which is a remarkable moment in the book of Dvarim, where we stand to hear the Ten Commandments for the second time. Some would argue for the second and a half time, Rabbi?
We could debate that later.
Yeah, good conversation. There are some subtle differences in these versions of the Ten Commandments. I have a feeling we're going to discuss that later.
Into that in a little bit.
But I would invite everyone to come close as you're comfortable up here, and we're going to hear the Ten Commandments chanted Va'et-Chanan, 3 aliyot, and then a special 4th aliyah. Is anyone feeling called today? Is anyone feeling like they would like to step forward for this moment of blessing? Yeah, please. What's your Hebrew name? Tavo, Tamod, Devorah Bat Malka, Aliyah Rishona. All right, take your seats. And just touch and kiss. It is right here. All right, whenever you're ready. Baruch Hu
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you. Would you hold it open, please? Everyone can step forward and take a look at the text. Amen. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mi beit avadim lo yihye lecha Elohim acherim al panai lo ta'aseh lecha fesel chol tmuna asher bashamayim mimal va'asher ba'aretz mitachad va'asher b'mayim mitachad la'aretz lo tishtachave lahem ve'lo ta'ovdim Ki anochi Adonai Elohecha Elkana poked avon avot al banim ve'al shileshim ve'al ribeim lesonai ve'ose chesed la'alafim le'ohavai u'leshomrei mitzvotai. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, God of our ancestors, may you be blessed. You step forward to honor Torah, to honor the community, and together we bless you with strength and love. Amen.
Amen.
Anyone who is thinking of someone who's in need of healing, or perhaps you yourself could use a blessing of healing, perhaps physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, even someone who's in recovery, now is a time to step forward for the second Aliyah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. I'm sorry. Ve'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And Nancy Dolette is going to chant the second Aliyah.
Where's Shamor? Let me see if I need my glasses or not.
It's always
That's
easier.
better. And two hands. Shamor et yom HaShabbat lekodsho ka'asher tzivcha Adonai Elohecha sheshet yamim ta'avod ve'asita kol melachtecha ve'yom hashvi'i Shabbat l'Adonai Elohecha lo ta'aseh kol melacha ata uvincha uvitecha ve'amatecha ve'amarta V'shorecha v'chamocha v'chol v'chemtecha v'gerecha asher v'shavrecha למען ינוח עבדך ואמתך כמוך וזכרת כי עבד היית בארץ מצרים ויוציאך אדוני אלוהיך משם ביד חזקה ובזרוח נטויה על כן ציווך אדוני אלוהיך לעשות את יום השבת.
That was beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betokenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
In the presence now of our Sefer Torah, we have the opportunity to call into our hearts all those in need of healing. Healing of mind, of body, of spirit. As I look around, if you would like to share the name of someone for whom you are praying, I invite you to, actually, at the pause, at the appropriate moment, in the Mishaberach. I'm getting there. At the pause, the appropriate moment in Mishaberach, we'll look around and give you the opportunity to share the names of those for whom you are praying for healing.
Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem Leachlimam Urapotam Ulahachazikam Vishlach Lehem Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Urefuat HaGuf Hashta Bagalav Izman Kariv V'Nomar. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say,
Amen.
For the third Aliyah, may I be so bold as to invite our new rabbi
I sure can.
to bless us with this Torah moment.
Sure.
We are at, and now everyone can see here also, it's really fascinating. Some of the commandments have their own paragraphs, but some of them are so strong, like you shall not murder. Let's hear tzach, just here by themselves. Kind of profound.
Right, and lo tignov beneath it, so don't murder, don't steal.
Tamod.
Harav Rachel Bachana Bracha B'Shimshon.
Harav Rachel Bat Chana Bracha V'Shimshon, Aliyah Shlishit.
First word of over there. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha kasher tzivecha Adonai Elohecha lema'an yarichun yamecha ulema'an yitavlach al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach lo tirtzach v'lo tinaf, velo tignov, velo ta'aneh v'reacha eid shav, velo tachmod eshet re'echa, velo titaveh beit re'echa, sadehu v'avdo v'amato, shoro v'chamoro, v'chol asher l're'echa.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mishaberach. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, God of our ancestors, may you be blessed as you have chosen this community and brought your family to this community, and continue to bless us with wisdom and learning and things that you have brought from your experiences, life, and all the places to elevate Temple Chai in Phoenix, Arizona. We are blessed as you continue to bless us with your presence.
Thank you.
Amen.
So, friends, we have a real treat. Bit of a surprise. You're all going to chant the next section of Torah together. No. It's okay. It's just kind of a pop quiz. All right? You know what? You know what? Exactly. You've been studying for this, and Rabbi and I were talking about it, and I was like, I think they got it. So together, let's gather around. Again, as you're comfortable. If you need more space, that's okay. And let's all chant the Torah blessings together, and then we will all chant Torah. Where did that Yash go?
It was right over there.
It was right over there. Nancy still got it. But we do need someone to step forward. Hey, Addison, you can't say the blessing because that would make you a bat mitzvah, but you can chant from the Torah. You'll get there, but you can chant from the Torah. So would you please do us the honor of pointing out the words that we are chanting? You have no idea what we're doing, right? But guess what? When you get there, you will know exactly what we're doing.
And we're
Okay.
right here with you.
We're right here with you.
Some of you are holding prayer books. If you wanted to look along for the Torah blessing, it's on page 368. If you happen to be holding a prayer book, I'm going to come stand like back here. All the way.
Thank you, Rabbi. I will I'll stand on this side. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Are you ready? All right. You see that word? That's that word. You know that word. We just sang it earlier.
I thought you said no pop quizzes.
Oh, sorry. I'll do the first part. The first part is the tricky part. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Take it, Addison. Let's do it together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha beveitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Yasher koach.
Actually, you did a perfect job.
Right?
Perfect.
All right, everyone.
You didn't
Blessing
know it was coming.
after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Okay, who's feeling ready to lift a scroll that's mostly heavy on the right side?
Tough crowd.
All right. And someone to drag the scroll.
Oh, where's Janet? Those books right there. Where's Janet?
And, you can go sit right there with the scroll. Yeah. All right. You should show everyone the big middle.
Yep.
Push down. Bend your knees.
Yep.
Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai. Terry, can you open this one? Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai. Yai na nai nai, yai nai na nai nai, yai nai na nai nai na nai nai. Et chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tom cheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh chadesh yameinu chadesh yameinu kekedem. Yishar kochachem. Let's all have a seat.
Sure. I can keep.
Is it marked?
All right, so we have the opportunity to do a little bit of study together. Text sheets are coming around. So we just chanted not only that last bit together from V'ahavta, but we chanted also from the Ten Commandments. And as Cantor mentioned, we have at least twice, some would say 2.5 times, but at least twice, that we encounter the Ten Commandments in our Torah. And so in our Torah portion this week, we're in the book of Deuteronomy, and that is the second time we encounter the Ten Commandments. And so we get the chance to look at one particular command today together, and a little bit of a comparison between the first time we get the command and the second. You're flipping through, some of you, and thinking, gosh, there are a lot of texts on this text sheet, and how long is this rabbi keeping us here? Don't worry. We're not going to get to all of them, okay? I have a tendency to give you the kitchen sink along with everything else in a text sheet, and so if you keep it, you can encounter more of the texts, okay? So no fear necessary. So you may have encountered long text sheets before is what I'm hearing, right? Okay, so what I want to focus on with you today is the command regarding Shabbat, right? So first, I'm going to take us back to the book of Exodus, right? The pages aren't numbered in here, but the texts are. So I will reference the text numbers in here. So in the book of Exodus, this is the first time we get the 10 Commandments, right? That big moment at Sinai. And here is the command from the book of Exodus, okay? Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, right? Zachor. It's hard to tell. I did bold it in the Hebrew too. It's kind of faint. Okay. Zachor, remember. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Adonai your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son or daughter, your male or female slave, or your cattle, or the stranger who is within your settlements. For in 6 days God made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them, and God rested on the seventh day. Therefore Adonai blessed the seventh day and hallowed it. Okay? All right, so we're going to pause right there. Tell me anything that jumps out at you from this. I'm going to pass you the mic so anyone streaming can follow along with us, so prepare yourself for that. But tell me anything. Oh, thank you, Cantor. Tell me what might jump out to you from this. What do you notice about this particular command? No wrong answers. Yes. And tell us who you are, because I don't know if everyone knows everyone.
Okay, Barry Singer, and I think many of you do. No one's exempt.
No one is exempt, right?
Even though my cats might be wondering about that one.
Your cats?
Yeah,
Usually you put them to work on Shabbat, right?
I do.
So you're going to have to stop doing that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right, so, no one's exempt. All genders, no matter where you are, socioeconomic status, even servants or slaves, that word in Torah, somewhere in the land between servant and slave, often that word means, right? Even animals, even non-Israelites, strangers in your midst, everyone. It's applicable to everyone, the command is. Anything else jump out to you? Anything you're noticing?
I think the big elephant is the slave, your male or female slave.
Right? Kind of interesting for Exodus, when we just finished being slaves, to reference Israelites having slaves, right? It shows the mentality, not necessarily against indentured servitude / slavery, but the Israelites being, right, uncomfortable. But interesting that slaves also get to rest on Shabbat too, right? So there's discomfort, but they do get to rest on Shabbat. I saw hands over here, yeah.
It doesn't say what day.
Right, it doesn't say what day, right? We might be able to surmise if we know where we're starting to count, because in 6 days God made, right?
But if you're a stranger in your land and your Sabbath isn't Saturday, it still gives room for that. It's just saying you need to rest on a day.
That is interesting, right? So according to this, the plain meaning, it's not saying that, there's no word for Saturday that we encounter, right? So maybe it could be a different day, so long as there is one day. Fun fact, the early reformers, right? So the early reform movement, late 19th century, thought, wouldn't it be convenient if Shabbat were on Sundays like everyone else? And they tried it. Sunday services, everything, didn't last, but they tried it, okay? But, maybe they could have found justification here in Torah, because does it specify a day? Not really. Very interesting.
The only problem I have with that is the guy walks into the city that's resting and says, no, I can work. I rested yesterday. I rested on Thursday. I rested.
Right? So if not everyone's doing it at the same time, there's a different impact whether they're Israelite or not, right? So, you're maybe staggering work or something, right? We know what it's come to be. It's a specific day, but just from this one command. And of course, there's all sorts of stuff that we do on Shabbat that isn't explicit, or maybe that we refrain from doing on Shabbat that isn't explicit right here, right? Okay, so just a couple things I want to make sure we note also, in addition to these really important things we've already said. One is remember, zachor. I want you to hold on to that one, right? The word to remember it. What does that mean, right? Remember it. Keep it in mind, right? Don't forget, but what's implied in remember. So let's hold that, right? And that the reason given for, right, you have to rest. Why? Because in 6 days God made heaven and earth, right? So we reference creation in this version, in our first encounter with the Ten Commandments from the book of Exodus. So God rested on the seventh day, therefore God hallowed the seventh day and made it holy, right? Hallowed, made holy. Okay, moving on to what we just chanted from Torah. So this is the second text. Then we get Shamor, observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy as Adonai your God has commanded you. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of Adonai your God. You shall not do any work. And then this starts to sound familiar. You, your son or daughter, your male or female slave, or the stranger in your settlements, so that your male and female slave may rest as you do. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Adonai your God freed you from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, Adonai your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Okay, now tell me, what do you notice in this command about Shabbat?
Well, it's fairly clear. I was going to say remember the first time, but you had already highlighted it. But the distinction is rather clear. One is to keep it in mind, and the other one is get off your butt. You've got to do this.
I like it, right? So no sitting around on your tuchus, right? You have to do this thing. Observe, shamor, right? Guard or observe is really the sense of that Hebrew word, shamor, right? So we're not just keeping it in mind. I don't know if the word just, we can think about, if the mind's, what's the point, the doing or the mindset, right? But shamor, very good. Okay, what else are we pulling out from this version?
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, I'm Jesse. The justification here is that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Adonai freed you. Therefore, God commanded you to observe the Sabbath.
Right, so that first time, we reference creation, that God rested on the seventh day, right? So we are to emulate God in the first time we get this command in Exodus. But this time, the justification is that we ourselves were slaves, right? We had no control over our lives, our work, our time. There was no rest. Therefore, we rest on the seventh day, right? And I'll note also connected to that this one emphasizes very much that the slave must rest as you do, right? Yeah.
This is the first time there's an actual connection, though, between our slavery and the way we treat the people we call slaves or servants or whatever.
Right. So that's a really distinct thing, that we're connecting our experience to then how we treat other people, right? The seminal experience that made them really the Israelites was this coming out of slavery, and therefore we have obligations that come from that. Different places in Torah, were you about to say this? Different places in Torah we've encountered that, but in the Ten Commandments in this version, this is the first place.
Mm-hmm. And having lived in Israel, you go to a restaurant, and sometimes there's a guard at the restaurant, a shomer. And I love the concept of protecting Shabbat, like protecting that free time, protecting that downtime, because often a day off gets filled with shopping or things that you are obligated to do with family or friends, and you're like, can't I just have a day to rest? And I love the shamor, the protecting of that sacred time.
Love it, right? And it does take protecting, exactly, right? If you don't protect that time, it's going to get filled, right? And maybe you need to remember it, to keep it in mind, in order to protect it, right? Anything else that's jumping out before we move forward to some other? Yes.
I just appreciate the you in this portion. It's not saying they will do this. It's really claiming us as we read this, that, this is my duty, because we are the you that is saying, Adonai is your God. You will do this. And sometimes we always think of the other or the they, and we are them.
I love it, right? It's personal. It's about us. It references our direct relationship with God. You do this, right? Not someday, not those people can do that. It's us. I love it, right? So, very good. So this Zachor and Shamor, those words may also be familiar to you because of a prayer we encounter, right? So you may be reading ahead, which might be cheating if you did. But I want to, we're going to jump ahead and jump back, okay? So I want to jump us ahead to text number 8. Take a peek at text number 8. Okay? So this is from Lecha Dodi, which we sing each Shabbat as part of Kabbalat Shabbat. In the Hebrew, for those who encounter the Hebrew, but you're going to still hear the sounds that we were just hearing with these words, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad, right? Shamor and Zachor right there. And that means keep and remember in one utterance. Okay? So this is Lecha Dodi referencing the 2 times that we get the command to observe or keep or protect or remember or keep in mind Shabbat. So the tradition is, right, that God gave Torah on Mount Sinai, right? And unlike us, we can only say one word at a time. God can say one word and 2 words come out. Right? And that's part of how the rabbis say, like, wait a second, we have Shamor one time and Zachor another time. God's never wrong, right? God always has a plan in mind, according to the rabbis. How did God achieve this? Well, unlike us, we're so limited, we can only say one word at a time. God is not so limited, and God said, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. Shamor v'Zachor in one utterance. Okay, so in Lecha Dodi, that is where this concept comes from. That in one utterance, we are to observe and guard and remember, keep in mind, right? So God said both of these things at the same time. And I think that it invites us to consider exactly what we're called to do or not do on Shabbat. What does it mean to keep it? What does it mean to remember it, to guard it, to observe it? Now, one of my soapboxes that you're going to be hearing from me a lot is that we don't have to do everything in order to do something, right? And our job is to do something, not everything. And that something means finding meaningful ways to observe Shabbat, not by anyone else's standards, but by standards that resonate with us individually and us as a community, right? So what is the special nature of Shabbat? So I wanted to just share a few favorite texts, and then you'll go home with more of my favorite texts about Shabbat. That I think try to get to that essence, okay? So let's take a peek at text 5. Text 5. So this is from Bereshit Rabbah. That is the classical compilation of Midrash about the book of Genesis. Anytime you see Bereshit Rabbah, Devarim Rabbah, that Rabbah means classical Midrash by the rabbis, okay? And it says, and then Rabbi Hanina Bar Yitzchak said, there are 3 varieties of analogy. A taste of death is sleep. A taste of prophecy is dreaming. A taste of the world to come is Shabbat. And Rabbi Avin added 2 more. A taste of the light of heaven is the sun. And a taste of the wisdom of heaven is Torah. Right? So they're saying, what is just the littlest hint of something much bigger and harder to grasp, right? How much do I love that the sun is a taste of the light of heaven, right? Or that dreams are just a taste of prophecy, right? And this sleep being a taste of death sounds kind of morbid, but this is the rabbi's idea that the soul leaves the body as we sleep and God returns it to us every morning. Right, that's why we sing Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi, that God, the soul you have given me, like given back to me this morning, you cleaned it off, you refreshed it, it's pure, right? That's that prayer. But Shabbat is a taste of the world to come, meaning that perfect time someday when everything is perfect here on earth, right? And that Shabbat is this taste of that time, right? And it invites us to think, if Shabbat is a taste of the world to come, then for me, what's my little way of accessing what I think heaven on earth would be? Right? How can I make that day as close as I can possibly come to perfection? And what would an age of perfection be like on this earth? Okay? So, I really should have looked at my watch when I started. I have no idea how long we've been talking. Okay, I'm going to share one final text with you in a very quick way, because it's maybe my favorite text to study about Shabbat. So take a look at the very final text. Oh, where there is no number, but it's after text 8. It's what would be text 9. Okay? Look, find text 8 and then one down from that.
We have a number.
Oh, really? Mine doesn't. Okay, text 9. Look at text 9. See how I don't? That's fascinating. Okay.
You got the printer thing.
All right. Text 9. Okay, so this is from the Talmud. So the Code of Jewish Law codified roughly in 400 to 500 of the Common Era. Okay, so it starts with a text from the Mishnah. It quotes the Mishnah. And it is part of a debate about, on Shabbat, what can you carry from one domain into another? Right, so one of the traditional commands on Shabbat is not to bring something from one domain into another. This is one of those don't do's, right? And so they're getting down in the weeds on all sorts of different things, but then this text happens, and it happens to be one I love, okay? So they're saying just as it's prohibited for a woman to carry out certain items, meaning out of one domain into another, unique to a woman in the public domain, right? She's carrying a purse, she's carrying something on Shabbat, you're supposed to leave it, at home and don't cross, from one domain into another, okay? The sages said that a man may neither go out on Shabbat with a sword, nor a bow, nor with a shield, nor with an Allah, which is a club, nor with a spear. And if he unwittingly went out with one of these weapons to the public domain, he is liable to bring a sin offering, okay? So it's not appropriate for a man to have a sword or a shield or any of these things, right? And this is pertinent because in that day and age, that's like you get dressed in the morning, right? And you have your wallet and your keys, right? This is just part of how a man would get dressed to go out for the day, right? He'd have his sword, his usual stuff. And the rabbis are saying, is that appropriate on Shabbat, right? So the text continues, Rabbi Eliezer says, these weapons are ornaments for him. It's like jewelry, right? Like a woman wearing jewelry. These are ornaments for him. Just as a man is permitted to go out into the public domain with other ornaments, he's permitted to go out with weapons. But the rabbis say they are nothing other than reprehensible. And in the future, they will be eliminated. As it is written, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmadu od milchama, right? Will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore. They're saying, no, that's reprehensible. Don't bring that out on Shabbat. In the future, meaning in the world to come, they're not going to have swords and shields. They're not going to have implements of war, right? Those are going to be pruning hooks. Those are going to be productive, wonderful things. Swords, they're not going to have them. So if Shabbat is a taste of the world to come, even if you're wearing them like you'd wear jewelry, not appropriate, right? That's not Shabbati, right? Technical term, is it Shabbati? That's not Shabbati, right? That's not appropriate if Shabbat is a taste of the world to come, right? So I love this text. It goes on, and there are other parts I like, but I'll pause here. You can encounter this text more on your own time if you want. But what I love is it invites us to say, when we're doing something on Shabbat, even if you're not thinking of the whole day, if you're taking 2 hours as your Shabbat time, right? Whatever we do in that 2 hours, we can ask ourselves, is that what I imagine a more perfect world to be like? And if I'm not behaving that way in that more perfect world, well, that's not Shabbati for me, right? That doesn't qualify. On Shabbat, everyone's going to give to each other and open their doors. There are not going to be any hungry, impoverished people. Everyone's going to be whole, and there's going to be peace. And what I'm doing in my little window of Shabbat I'm carving out for myself, is that emulating that? And if not, how can I? right? Even in what we wear, right? Something could be something simple, could be something big, is what this text is saying. A taste of the world to come. So my hope and my prayer is, in whatever way you observe Shabbat, in whatever way is most meaningful to you, that we can each ask ourselves, is this the taste of the world to come that I want to enjoy myself? And is that the more perfect world that I want to create? And if not, how can I do that? May we be inspired in that way in the week and in the weeks ahead. Amen. So we will return now to our prayer books for our concluding prayers. But before we do, I just want to share two brief announcements. One is next Friday evening, we have our first Dorot Shabbat. This is a multi-generational Shabbat, appropriate for families and kids, but it is not exclusively appropriate for families and kids. Multi-generational means there'll be something for everyone at the service. It's everybody friendly, and it's followed by a barbecue dinner. I hope that you will come. And the following Shabbat, so that's the 19th is Dorot Shabbat, 26th is Prayer Lab. And I'll share, even though we haven't publicized it yet, or maybe we just did in the Ichai, that our theme is welcome. A really broad idea of what it is to welcome, and we're going to explore that together. So I hope you'll join for both of those services. Okay, so we'll return to our prayer books on page 586. Page 586 as we continue with Aleinu, and we will rise together. On the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tekeru l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gohar aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu karim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. 591. V'nemar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yiheh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. We think now of all those we've loved and lost, friends, family, members of our congregational community for whom we are in a period of mourning or observing a yahrzeit. As a congregational community, we remember Jules Rossman within the period of Shloshim, our beloved member. We remember all those whose yahrzeits we have here in the weekly bulletin. If you've joined us streaming online, please share the names of those you're remembering in the comments so we can hold them close in our hearts with our own. If anyone here is observing a yahrzeit or in a period of mourning or simply remembering someone at this time whose name you would like to share, I invite you to rise to share those names. Together now we will rise in support of all those in mourning or remembering those they loved. The Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 598. Page 598. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, b'yama divrach lirtei